On the weekend of July 12th, 2025, WWE and AEW waged a war on content. It was enough shows to fill up a week's worth of wrestling, but it happened all in one weekend, all at once, for strictly competitive reasons. TLDR, these niggas got wicked. It was like throwing pig slop into a bucket, but gourmet pig slop that was pureed and poured in a State Farm arena. The wrestling wars have turned counter-programming into an art form, mainly for WWE. The worldwide leader pounced on AEW's biggest weekend of the year in a petty, competitive move that created some of the best professional wrestling and sports entertainment in a 48-hour period. The increasingly petty beef also led to the longest pro wrestling pay-per-view of all time in a defiant move from the underdog. July 12th and the 13th were an unforgettable two-day span where pro wrestling content was on television for more hours than it wasn't. It brought the best and worst out of two national promotions and served as a quintessential example of how two feuding companies plan to flood the market with content in a battle of attrition. WWE versus AEW means WWE fans versus AEW fans. WWE Media versus AEW Media, WWE Twitter versus AEW Twitter, and AEW Twitter versus Amber Alerts. Oh yeah, and is getting paid. This is a story of the wildest weekend in the history of pro wrestling, and how rising tensions between two petty promotions will continue to turn pay-per-views into a battleground. While we're at it, what do the numbers really say about counter-programming? And what'll happen when this big beefy bubble finally bursts? Subscribe and... WWE's war with AEW existed long before AEW ever even made it to TV. After making history with All In 2018, the largest independent wrestling event ever, Tony Khan partnered with the Elite to form AEW, All Elite Wrestling. And by partnered, I mean conveniently swooped in when ROH was white hot. So hot, Ring of Honor forgot to sign its biggest stars to a contract before All In. Get it how you live. In fact, WWE tried to do the exact same thing to keep AEW from launching. People forget, but WWE tried to sign the Elite shortly after AEW was announced. The Elite took the meeting. Some felt WWE's offer was too good to turn down. The Elite turned it down. That same year, AEW scored a TV deal with WBD. 2 weeks before the first episode of Dynamite, WWE moved NXT to Wednesday nights in AEW's same time slot. What happened next was the Wednesday Night Wars. Triple H was tasked with taking the Indi-rific NXT brand and sicking it on the Indi-rificier AEW. Some felt WWE was just too powerful. It wasn't a fair fight. AEW fought them off. Right back to Tuesday nights. In AEW's first 2 years, they could do no wrong. WWE even tried to counter an episode of Rampage with 2 segments of SmackDown. They ran Roman Reigns at the peak of his powers as the tribal chief and head of the table of the bloodline against AEW's B Show, and WWE lost in the 18-49 demo head-to-head to the Bunny. Think about that for a second. 2025 AEW fumbles more women than a shiny Sean Combs rubbing his palms together during halftime at the Freak-Off. But 4 years ago, women's wrestling in AEW had motherfuckers tweeting, "Acknowledge her." Fast forward to present day, and the wrestling wars are as bitter as they've ever been. NXT has rallied back, and ever since moving to the CW on Tuesdays, they beat AEW Dynamite in total viewership 9 out of 10 times. Dynamite is still clinging to a slight lead in 18-49. AEW has gone head-to-head with NXT 3 times since 2023, and with help from main roster stars, NXT has won comfortably every time. WWE versus AEW is a battle among the super rich and the super fans. It defines tribal warfare in the pro wrestling industry in ways that tribalism exists throughout every industry. Marvel versus DC, Democrats versus Republicans, Diddy versus the feds, Even the Superman fandom couldn't get on the same page because some people were happy James Gunn directed the reboot while others wanted Zack Snyder. Once the scourge beneath the white man's internet was let out of Pandora's box, every genre, opinion, philosophy, and ideal will always be overshared, and those same ideals will always have a counter. Now that everybody has a voice, everybody is also polarizing. For every 1,000 tweets about all the good that Gandhi did, there's a vocal minority right there to remind you, yeah, but he beat his wife. There's Martin guys and there's Malcolm guys. There's Malcolm guys and there's Martin guys. The truth is, tribal fans online consume just about everything within their genre. Most Zack Snyder bros saw the new James Gunn Superman. Complaining about it was just part of the fun. Most pro-black people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, myself included. Most wrestling fans watch both WWE and AEW. Liberals are well aware of the talking points of the Ben Shapiros and Candace Owens of the world. And the alt-right always seems to know exactly what Rachel Maddow said about Trump the other night. How did that happen? People might not want to admit it, but while fans don't always vocally support both sides of a tribal coin, they definitely keep up with what each side is doing and saying. This applies to WWE and AEW from the top down, and I'm all for it. Tribalism is so fun when you don't take yourself too seriously. What's in the fun of enjoying wrestling without clashing opinions or dueling tribes? In fact, let's talk about enjoy wrestling for a second. The irony of enjoy wrestling guy who thinks nobody should be engaging in tribal arguments about which promotion is better is that the enjoy wrestling group is a tribe in and of itself. They actively cyberbully people who revert to their human instincts and get tribal about wrestling. How dare them? If you don't like people feuding about pro wrestling, shut the fuck up about it and go to a safe space that'll tolerate you. Real talk, enjoy wrestling people are incorrigible NPCs. They're not funny or interesting, so they don't have any thought-provoking takes that'll spark a conversation in the wrestling community. They have no talent, no diction, no depth. In fact, the only thing they're capable of doing is enjoying. I'd enjoy wrestling too if I couldn't write a joke. For those of us troublemakers who do more than just enjoy wrestling, WWE versus AEW can lead to some of the most exciting content in the business. The two companies have so much in common while also having nuanced differences in philosophy. That's what makes a great rivalry. No different from Democrats and Republicans, both colonizers who put that white man first, both in bed with Israel, neither of whom really care about black people or any minority for that matter, both more corrupt than a Wrestling Observer Award. But because one group is pro-choice and the other group wants open carry at the Chipotle, all hell breaks loose. We'll be right back. WWE is a mainstream, corporately sponsored, character-driven storytelling promotion that clashes with AEW's upstart, corporately sponsored, technical professional wrestling style. Black women run pro wrestling these days, so let's put it this way. WWE is the Beyonce to AEW's Azalea Banks.
It's funny because I think the fans get more upset for wrestlers than wrestlers get upset. Especially the whole, like, with other companies and companies against each other. It's like, all the wrestlers are friends.
Yeah.
Like, none of the wrestlers are in this, like, conflict with each other like the fans are.
Yeah, the tribalism exists solely with the fans.
Yeah, like, everyone's friends. All the wrestlers are friends.
Yeah, and they're also, like, rooting for each other.
Yeah.
So whether you work in TNA or WWE or AEW or New Japan or wherever.
Yeah. Wrestlers don't want other companies to do badly because then that's less opportunities for them and their friends.
Yeah.
Nigga, and? Of course the wrestlers get along. Why wouldn't they? They're the ones who stand to benefit the most financially from two companies at war. That doesn't mean tribalism doesn't exist or shouldn't exist. Quite the opposite, actually. The same way I'm sure players from the Green Bay Packers get along with those amateurs from the Chicago Bears, all while the two fan bases go to hell on each other. I'm sure Kenny Omega would kiss Seth Rollins on the mouth if he saw him IRL. What does that have to do with these incels online doxing one another over their wrestling takes? What does it have to do with Nick Khan threatening to steal Tony Khan's talent in the same sentence where he gave Shad Khan all the credit for AEW's success?
They have a lot of talented wrestlers, and we're happy about that. When contractually, they're available to be, talked to and have conversations with, assume a number of them will come over. And nothing but respect for the father who
that was way too nice.
Finances it and owns the Jaguars and all those other things.
What does it have to do with Whiteful and our racist cousin Jerry crying over creative control? What does it have to do with July 12th, 2025?
All right, Arlington lands a big wrestling show at the home of the Texas Rangers. All Elite Wrestling announced today it's going to be hosting the annual All In pay-per-view event at Globe Life Field next year. It'll be on July 12th.
WWE returns to Atlanta July 12th for Saturday night's main event at State Farm Arena. It doesn't get much bigger than this. WWE Hall of Famer and Georgia Bulldog Goldberg takes on the ring general Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship.
WWE might be holding Evolution 2 in Atlanta, Georgia, the same weekend as Saturday night's main event, creating a big double event weekend in the city.
AEW moved their show so they wouldn't go against Saturday night's main event, correct?
Correct. Earlier in the day, yeah.
Right, so WWE now has a show the day before, the night before, the day of, and the day after.
And it's just, they do it because that's what they do. I get it. It's history. This is what we do with competition.
AEW announced its return to stadium shows with All In 2025 from Globe Life Field. 2 years after All In drew 72,000 fans to Wembley Stadium and 46,000 fans the year after, AEW booked a small baseball stadium in a move that anointed All In as AEW's WrestleMania. But given the declines in attendance each year, it felt more like WrestleManias 3 through 5. Either way, this was AEW's biggest weekend of the year. But with the promotion struggling to sell tickets, what Tony Khan saw as a rebound, WWE saw as a wounded animal. WWE booked not one, not two, but 3 different shows that same weekend, including Saturday night's main event, which was originally scheduled to go head-to-head against All In at 5 p.m. Pacific. AEW ran from night to day like a reverse vampire, but WWE said knuck if you buck and added NXT's Great American Bash head-to-head. WWE Evolution, an all-women's show, was originally booked for the Mohegan Sun Arena the week prior, but WWE moved it to Sunday evening. Oh, the sickos were sick to their little stomachs.
Ricochet calls out WWE, describing it quite simply as a bitch move. And you know what? He's right.
He's right.
It is a bitch move.
It is. And I'd say it's the most consistent event head-to-head scheduling I've seen since Jim Crockett Promotions. And I can tell you this will go a lot differently than that did, Mark.
How is it going to go any differently than it did before? He can't do anything about it.
The Saturday night main event with Bill Goldberg's retirement on free television on the same day as a pay-per-view. A lot of people are going to watch the free show.
WWE counter-programming AEW was more than just a dollars and cents game. Sure, WWE wants to book live events to make a profit. Each live event that weekend was promoted and moved tickets like any other. But that's not the point. The tribal wrestling war is also a clout war. The perception of one promotion being cooler than the other goes a long way in determining who controls the culture of the wrestling business. This has helped WWE ever since Cody Rhodes left AEW in 2022. I have a documentary all about it right here. Things got worse for AEW when CM Punk also left the company the following year for WWE. I have a documentary about that right here. Remember how AEW sold half the amount of tickets for Wembley Stadium in 2024 than it did in 2023? Then for All In 25, they booked a smaller venue altogether? Tony Khan blames it on a scheduling conflict and vows to be back to Wembley next year, but the truth is AEW cooled off violently. In 2025, AEW moved Dynamite shows to smaller 2,500-seat buildings, and their advances remain anemic throughout the year. Last year, AEW Collision booked a residency at the eSports Arena in Texas. AEW booked another residency at the teeny tiny 2,300 Arena this August during a week where, you guessed it, WWE made sure to run Philly the week before. Booking Wembley Stadium for All In 25 would have been a kamikaze mission. And even in a smaller baseball stadium, AEW was only able to squeeze around 25,000 tickets out of its fans. If WWE doesn't sell out every show it runs against AEW, that's fine. Around the time that each of these events aired, WWE sold over 40,000 tickets per night for SummerSlam on 2 different nights. Pulling up to the artist formerly known as All In weekend wasn't a business move. It was a put you out of business move. The type of move that would compromise AEW's headlines, so articles about Hangman Adam Page conquering the Skinhead stable would run concurrent with stories of Goldberg's retirement and WWE's first all-women's show in 7 years. This is a wrestling war, a cold war, a click war. Even in AEW's finest 8 hours, WWE wants you talking about WWE. It's the feral pugnacity that defined Vince McMahon and has been passed down to WWE executives long after he's gone. One time in 2010, UFC ran a preempted show on a Monday night against WWE Raw. They had no choice. It wasn't a competitive move. Still, Vince McMahon and company responded by booking a special guest host, Mike Tyson.
I love Vince, man. He's a fucking animal, isn't he? I mean, we're not trying to go against him. That night is the night Spike wanted to fight. Spike wanted to fight that night. They got some show airing, so that's the night that they called for it. You know, and Vince goes into fucking war mode, man. He's calling up Tyson. He's bringing this guy back, and The Rock might come back, and I love it, man. He's a fucking animal.
That same year, WWE responded to TNA going head-to-head on Monday nights by booking Bret Hart, thereby putting an end to a 13-year feud that some people thought would last forever. Kind of like CM Punk's feud against WWE, a feud that also ended because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And for all that shit them sickos be talking about counter-programming, look at all the burned bridges it rebuilt. I'll bet All In 26 will mess around and go head-to-head with a WWE Shield reunion, Dean Ambrose and all. AEW's biggest weekend turned into one of pro wrestling's biggest weekends. It had the vibes of all those piggybacking promotions that descend upon WrestleMania. So if all these indies are gonna get rich off the backs of WWE for 1 week every April, why can't WWE use another company's WrestleMania to bring more attention to themselves? All is fair in love and war. And in broad daylight on a hot Texas day, AEW aired All In to kick off one of the busiest wrestling weekends ever. All In opened with the Ops successfully defending their trios titles against top heel stables, the Death Riders. Then the Death Riders Pillmanized Samoa Joe. So much for skinhead sportsmanship. Next up, a tame Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal ended with a strategic win for MJF. After a heartbreaking speech from Adam Cole, who forfeited the TNT title due to injury, Dustin Rhodes shocked Globe Life Field with his first TNT title win after a long, quiet, fatal 4-way. Dustin had 3 belts, and 3 matches were in the books for All In 2025. So were 2 hours. The middle of the second hour was when the show actually started to show signs of life. And for those who were there live for 0 hour, they sat through 3 total hours of pro wrestling before this pay-per-view really started to cook. The Young Bucks tried to recreate their hilarious preamble from Double or Nothing. It was not hilarious. Like All In, it went on for too long. So much so, it killed the crowd all over again after they just popped when the match was announced. The babyface team of Swerve and Our Honky pointed to their watches and stretched to stay loose. In a great professional wrestling tag team match, no different from most AEW party matches, Swerve and Our Honky prevailed. The EVPs lost their power, and there was no 1-year world title ban for Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. By the end of the Women's Casino Gauntlet, AEW was well over 3 hours into the main show. Like just about everybody breathing on this pay-per-view, the Hurt Syndicate got a live musical entrance, shouts to West Side Gun. With all the live hip-hop, country, and rock music, All In was like Coachella, but if the attendees were strung out on Lunchables. The Hurt Syndicate steamrolled Jet Speed and the Patriarchy, and post-match, we got a return of Cope, who got all of his shit in before finally saving Christian from a concerto. Go find yourself, Jay. What a weird story. It's hour number 4 of the 17-hour spectacular, and it's finally time for your triple main event. More importantly, All In was trending toward overlapping Saturday night's main event. One would assume that a pay-per-view starting at noon would be over by 5, But that wasn't even close to the case. After Toni Storm munched Sasha Banks' box, giving the CEO her first loss, Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada locked up around the 4.5-hour mark. They did their best impression of their worst match, and it was the worst match they ever had together. A constant theme with AEW is Tony Khan overpaying for subjects of Dave Meltzer's glazing, and this theme continued with Okada versus Omega working 2 steps slower. AEW remixes are like New Japan day-old bread. Or bad boy remixes now. Take that. Hour 5, the main event. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but really that's just daylight creeping in from Sunday morning. Jon Moxley put his 8-month world title reign on the line at the end of an 8-month pay-per-view. After blood, guts, chains, outside interference, and a bed of nails, Hangman Adam Page dethroned Jon Moxley and retrieved the OG AEW World Championship. A beautiful moment to end an excruciatingly long show. Mercifully, All In's main show ended at 5 hours, 56 minutes, and 36 seconds, which translates to around 6:15 Pacific time. All In Texas was like the Wrestling Observer newsletter. A homogenous slog of 40,000 words. You're not going to read or care about most of them, but at least there were 2 or 3 semi-interesting stories where you go, CM Punk said what? Tony Khan tweeted about who? Ricochet can't draw a what now? Also, much like every match at All In Texas, most Wrestling Observer stories are fake. Tony Khan slow-paced his biggest show to counter-program the first hour of Saturday night's main event. And in the process, All In 2025 became the longest wrestling pay-per-view of all time, dethroning WrestleMania 35. Like All In, WrestleMania 35 was remembered for its quantity rather than its quality. In fact, this was the last time WrestleMania was ever one night long. By sticking around past the first hour of Saturday night's main event, AEW was sending a message. They weren't scared anymore. After running away from the 5 p.m. time slot, AEW wasn't going to sprint off air to accommodate WWE. AEW was here to celebrate its biggest day, and they were not going to be bullied. A commendable message. But a complicated one, because instead of being bullied by WWE, AEW just bullied its own fan base. AEW made fans sit around in the hot Texas sun and wait during several hours of downtime. Familiar territory for that audience, but it was like paying hundreds of dollars for a Twitch stream instead of playing Fortnite for free. All In could have been an instant classic had it run for half the time, but by running yet another long live event, this time breaking a record, AEW's brand of marathon pay-per-views could end up backfiring when it comes to selling future shows. All In should have been a great pay-per-view, but in the end, it was just a long pay-per-view with a good ending. By running a record-long pay-per-view to spite a WWE TV show, AEW essentially tricked itself off these streets. Sure, they were standing up to Titan Towers, but you could easily argue they were doing so at their own expense, sabotaging their own pay-per-view to teach WWE a lesson? That's a level of pettiness only made possible by real graps. Saturday night's main event opened with a star-studded matchup between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. After outside interference from Jelly Roll and Logan Paul, Orton beat Drew in McIntyre's return match. Solo Sikoa handled Jimmy Uso in a solid US title match with help from his revolving door of cousins. And Cousin Jacob returned to run off all the heels. The compact show was a stark juxtaposition to All In, even for grim reasons, as the third match had to be cut short. Seth Rollins suffered a knee injury against LA Knight and took an awkward loss moments later. As the Click War raged on, WWE dominated headlines related to Seth Rollins' injury. In fact, the term Seth Rollins outdrew All In Texas in Google trending searches. Look, pardon the tinfoil on my head, but was all this part of the plan? Did WWE know that conversation about Seth Rollins' injury could dominate wrestling headlines, thereby shifting momentum in their favor? Because Seth Rollins' injury produced more questions than answers.
I am not a doctor. I only know my body and what I feel. And what I feel is that this is going to be me out for an extended period of time. You know, we were talking off air earlier, and it is a bummer. But look, it is what it is. Our business moves on. This isn't the first time that I've been injured. It won't be the last time.
And at the time, nobody could definitively confirm whether or not that particular spot against LA Knight caused a legit injury to Seth Rollins. Staying true to form, the incompetent wrestling media had several different stories about the injury. Was it a work? Did he really get injured in that match? Or was it a cover for a pre-existing injury? Per usual, nobody knew, but everybody was asking. All the more questions that weren't being asked about All In. Assuming WWE intentionally muddied the waters around Rollins' injury, does this mean the level of pettiness in the Click Wars has reached 4D chess? In a heated main event, Goldberg gave it his all against Gunther. Because of the extra time left over from the Rollins match, this ended up being one of Goldberg's longest matches ever. But at just 14 minutes, it would have been the shortest match at All In Texas. Gunther submitted Goldberg in a retirement match that over-delivered, and Goldberg gave a touching retirement speech that was unfortunately cut off. If only there were time cues in Texas that day.
I guess that was the ultimate rib.
You
right?
think that was intentional? You think that was done on purpose?
I don't know. I'm not saying it was done on purpose by any stretch of imagination.
Hold up. Don't do Billy like that.
I'm saying that it wasn't prepared for on purpose. That's all. They wouldn't do that to Taker, right? I don't think. They wouldn't. They're not going to do that to Cena. Cena's going around the world doing his retirement thing. You know, mine was just the World Heavyweight Championship match. And to be honest with you, I mean, and I'm going to catch hell for. I don't care. It was a World Heavyweight. Dude, I had World Heavyweight matches all the time. That doesn't do anything for me.
Whoa. Sounds like the perfect opportunity for AEW to put Goldberg to come out of retirement on the Turner networks where Goldberg started. Maybe give Goldberg, I don't know, half an hour to give a proper retirement speech on air. I'm just saying. July 12th weekend ended with a historic WWE evolution. The women had a chip on their shoulders for being cannon fodder for a wrestling war, and they messed around and had the best show of the entire weekend. This was not the long, bloated, self-indulgent mess that was All In. Every match slapped. Every spot got a reaction. The night opened and closed with the top 2 women's matches of 2025. A predominantly female crowd in Atlanta refused to let this show fail, and WWE Evolution was all like, same. Blake Monroe turned heel, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez retained, Trish Stratus returned and gave Tiffany Stratton a run for her money. The Women's Battle Royal, anchored by Nikki Bella, was a brilliant spectacle that didn't need a single surprise to entertain. Stephanie Vaquer won with the Devil's Kiss, and if she's not the next big thing in pro wrestling, WWE might as well rehire Brock Lesnar. Jade Cargill earned a win over Naomi, no holds barred, but Naomi wasn't finished because her Money in the Bank cash-in was the only thing that could have made the greatest WWE women's match of all time more exciting. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky dueled in the match of the weekend, the best WWE women's match of all time, and to this point, the match of the year in 2025. With Rhea and Io more exhausted than Excalibur at the end of All In, Naomi cashed in and won. Naomi's surprise cash-in was the headline of the weekend, and by Monday morning, WWE had successfully infiltrated on AEW's clicks. Throughout June 12th weekend, AEW was blown out of the water by Evolution. Searches for Evolution comfortably outperformed searches for All In Texas. You, the mighty PWB subscriber, voted Evolution as the show of the weekend and Rhea versus Io as the match of the weekend. This after ranking All In Texas as the most important show heading into that same weekend. AEW is typically nowhere to be found during WrestleMania weekend. I wonder if this will change coming out of the Weekend Wrestling Wars, where WWE stepped all over AEW's biggest moment. All told, 6 former AEW stars were featured on WWE programming, while 18 former WWE stars and Ricochet were featured on AEW throughout the Weekend Wars. A lot of wrestling fans complained about the amount of wrestling this weekend, but lost in all the tribalism is the fact that 2 different wrestling promotions were able to move around 45,000 tickets for multiple shows in one weekend in the dead of summer. The tribal narratives went crazy after WrestleGeddon. Adam Cole's concussion was compared to Seth Rollins' injury. Sasha's All In loss was compared to Naomi's Evolution win. But then again, Athena won the gauntlet. Bill Goldberg's retirement speech versus Adam Cole's retirement speech.
AEW had the decency to let Adam Cole retire with dignity, but look how WWE cut off a legend like Goldberg.
Whatever. Hangman Adam Page's win was just a ripoff of WrestleMania 40. Had Hangman looking like Cody Timu Rhodes.
You're just mad because Hangman won the world title right after CM Punk had to say sorry to Saudi. WWE sucks.
AEW sucks.
But if you ask me, tribalism slaps. The wrestling boom period is alive and well. It's not sustainable because no boom period is. But I'm happy to have lived in a world where two promotions were petty enough to go to war over clout for my enjoyment. And more importantly, my income, because I covered all of these events with a smile. AEW's next pay-per-view will take place in London for Forbidden Door, the same exact day as NXT Heatwave. Check out this video and subscribe. Are you here for the Wrestling Wars? Is all this counter-programming sustainable? Tell me in the comments!